There we go. It is 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Let's go ahead and get into it. Good day, everybody. Welcome to Get to Know MISMO, the key to accelerating the industry's digital future. And this is presented by the MISMO Education Council. My name is Marissa Conradi, and I will be assisting by facilitating today's webinar. We are asking you to complete a couple of introductory poll questions. We want to get to know you just a little bit more. So I'm going to launch that now. And then while you're answering those questions, I've got a couple of housekeeping items to go over. So you should see two questions up on your screen. All right, and then it's a couple of housekeeping items. So you can bring up the chat box by clicking on the chat icon at the bottom of your screen. You might need to wiggle your mouse to see that appear, but once you click the icon, it should pop out for you. And we do encourage that you ask questions or make comments during the presentation. We will either answer those through the chat or live at the end with time permitting. And then please note at the end, we're also going to ask you to complete a couple of survey questions. We do ask for your honest feedback as this will help us improve our future webinars. And then once the webinar is done for today, I'll be providing you a link to the recording and a copy of the presentation. Again, please ask questions in the chat and we'll try to respond to those as we go or at the end. Now it's time to introduce today's speakers. We have Amy Moses, Vice President of Strategic Growth and Engagement at MISMO, and Perry Williams, Senior Program Manager at MISMO. Amy, I will turn it over to you. I'm going to display the results to those poll questions as well.
Thank you
We
so
don't
much,
have a lot of
Marissa.
responses. You're so welcome. So if you like, I can keep it open just for a minute, not sure if you see the responses coming through. But if you'd like me to end it, I can do that as well.
Yeah, let's keep it open for another minute
Okay.
and I'll introduce our team
Excellent.
first and then we can pivot back to the poll question. So thank you everyone for joining us. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. We are thrilled that you have decided to join us for this 30-minute Get to Know MISMO webinar. As Marissa said, I'm Amy Moses, VP of Strategic Growth here at MISMO, and my co-presenter is Perry Williams, Senior Program Manager. And behind the scenes today is Kelly Bradshaw, our Director of Strategic Growth. We are a half of what we like to call the MISMO six-pack. The other three of our teammates are Brian View, who is our President, Jonathan Kearns, our VP of Programs and Ops, and Jonna Critchley, our Director of Programs and Ops. So these six people you see here on the screen up the MISMO team. All right, let's bring up those poll questions, Marissa, and see what we have. All right, why did you guys decide to join the webinar today? Oh, look at that. 75% said info on MISMO's key initiatives. You're in luck because Perry will be going over those later in this webinar. And then next week, we have another webinar coming up that's just on those key initiatives. So we'll pop a link in the chat too that you can get registered for that one if you haven't already. And how to engage with MISMO. We'll go over a lot of ways to do that. So that is fantastic. And then look at those key initiatives. Surfacing wins the day, followed by AI. That's interesting. I don't think we've ever had a topic besides AI win out. So that's good info for Perry. All right, we'll go on to the next slide here. I'm glad to see we have many MISMO members on, non-members. We have a great group of people today. So some of you may be familiar with MISMO, some may not. MISMO is the standards body for the mortgage industry. That is our role in the industry. And membership to MISMO is open to anybody. Any type of organization can join MISMO. That's the beauty of it. I'm actually at an event right now. I'm at a conference in Dallas, the Housing Wire Economic Summit, and I can talk to anybody in this room about MISMO because anybody can be a member, anybody can engage. We are a subsidiary of the MBA, but the difference is that MBA focuses on advocacy and MISMO focuses on problem solving through standardization. So we serve very different, but yet vital purposes to the mortgage industry. We are here to help lenders and everyone else in the industry improve efficiency, reduce costs, and improve the mortgage experience. And I like to say that MISMO is by the industry for the industry. It is all of you that are a part of MISMO creating the standards for your organizations and the rest of the industry. So the 6 MISMO team members you saw there, we just keep the train running on the tracks, but we are not actually creating the standards. It's all of you who are doing that. As I mentioned, the uh, mission of MISMO is very different from the mission of MBA, and we like to say it's the power of two. There are two different types of memberships. That's a little bit confusing sometimes. People wonder, well, if I'm an MBA member, doesn't that automatically apply to MISMO? It does not. MISMO is a separate membership from MBA, but your organization is better off with both of them. And you can see there that all the major federal housing agencies are MISMO members, along with the GSEs. We have heavy involvement from Fannie, Freddie, and the Federal Home Loan Bank. So together, MISMO and MBA are shaping the future of the mortgage industry. There are two paths to membership. We get this question often, how can I engage and how do I become a member? If you are a lender, there's something called the Innovation Investment Fee, which yesterday we just rebranded it as the Innovation Investment Fund. Brian View and I hosted an hour-long LinkedIn Live all about the Innovation Investment Fund. So if you missed that, go to MISMO's LinkedIn, go to Brian's LinkedIn and find the recording. We'll also be sending an email tomorrow with that recording all about why lenders support MISMO. We had 6 executive guests. We had CEOs, CIOs talking about why their organizations support MISMO. Bob Brooksmith has a video that's out on the MISMO LinkedIn. Maybe Kelly can pop the link to that. It's out on YouTube in the chat as well to hear about why MBA supports MISMO. So that is how lenders become a member of MISMO, through that Innovation Investment Fund. And great timing, if we do have any lenders on the call today, those invoices are set to go out tomorrow for the Innovation Investment Fund. Invoices are sent once a year. So we're just kicking off, if you will, our lender membership campaign. Then for non-lenders, there's a different path to membership, and that is posted on our website, and you'll get the deck with these links as well afterwards. But there's different levels of membership and ways you can engage. But the good news is, if you're not a member yet and you need to work on some approvals with your organization to become one, you can still engage in MISMO. All of our work groups are open to everybody in the industry, and you can still, engage with us even if you're not a member. So I know Marissa had flipped ahead to that next slide. We'll go ahead and take a look at that. And that's what I mentioned yesterday, that live LinkedIn session that we did, where we asked lenders to stand up and say, count me in on paying that innovation investment fund and investing in the future of the industry via MISMO. So we're going to be continuing that Count Me In campaign. Would love if your organization can say, count me in. People often ask, well, why should I get involved in MISMO? A primary reason is to gain access to the standards and resources that we have created. A lot of them are available out in our library on mismo.org for the industry at no charge, but there are some that are available to members only. There are also certain file types available to members only. A lot of resources out there. MISMO's been around 26 years. So we have 26 years of standards and resources that we've built for you to access. Another great reason to become a member is that you have a voice in the future of mortgage, you individually and your organization. When you're sitting in our work groups, which Perry will talk more about, you get to speak up. We had our winter summit a couple of weeks ago, and somebody said, wow, it was their first time here. He spoke up in a work group, and somebody said, yes, draft the language you want and we'll include it in what we're working on. And he was shocked. He had no idea he could walk into a room, share his idea, and make an immediate impact on this work project that was underway. And so that is really the power of MISMO, that your voice is heard and your voice is used. It's also a great way for you to keep a finger on the pulse of the industry so that you know what is happening. If you're not in that room, your competitors are making decisions without you. Your prospects and your clients are in those rooms and they're making decisions wondering where your voice is. If you're a tech vendor, I have heard this a lot. We actually just heard it at an IMB panel last week where lenders were saying, some of their key tech vendors weren't in the room at MISMO and they were wondering where they were. Another key benefit is collaboration with industry thought leaders. As I mentioned, you get to be around your peers and collaborate for the betterment of the industry. MISMO also offers a lot of education, and Perry will get into some of the details there, but we do hold 3 summits a year, with our next one coming up June 1st through the 4th in Louisville, Kentucky. We offer MISMO boot camps. We offer webinars at least once a month. We have a lot of ways for you to have professional development opportunities. There's a lot of thought leadership opportunities for you and your organization. And then there's certification opportunities. You may have heard of the MBA CMB. That's a big deal to get pinned and have that CMB designation. MISMO has something similar, which I would love to make into a big deal as well, the AMSP and CMSP. So those are individual professional certifications that you can use. And I think last I checked, we had 41 CMSPs. So it is a very elite group of people that have earned that highest level. If we have any AMSPs or CMSPs in here, would love for you guys to pop it in the chat. As I mentioned, I think I said 26, but MISMO's now been around 27 years. So we are longstanding, have a lot of experience, have created a lot of standards, and we have a lot of organizations involved. You can see here that there are over 350 companies across the industry who are members of MISMO. There are 35 work groups. I've mentioned our work groups a couple of times. Those span across the life of loan, and those are something that anybody in the industry can get engaged with. So we'd love to have you join a servicing group, title and closing, mortgage insurance, origination, and then they get more specific from there. So there's really something for everyone. And if there isn't, we'd love your ideas. That's another thing we're currently doing, was we're analyzing the gaps of where does MISMO not have standards created already that we need to work on creating standards. And those ideas come from you, again, from the industry. It's when somebody raises their hand and says, oh, here's a process that needs standardization. You bring it to MISMO, it goes through a vetting process, and then it can become a work group and a standard can be created. So again, would love to have conversations with y'all and raise your hand as far as where you think those standards are needed. And the last data point that I'll hit on here that's really important is over the past 6 years, we've had over 3,000 lenders who have supported MISMO. That is significant, and we're very excited to have those lenders supporting MISMO again this year. And with that, I'll pass it off to Perry to tell you more about how you can get engaged in those 5 key initiatives.
Thank you so much, Amy, and thank you all for joining this webinar. We're really excited to have you here and have that you have interest in taking part in the organization. My name is Perry Williams. I am on the product team here at MISMO, and I have been with the organization for about 6 years now, just over 6 years. My 6-year anniversary was actually last Tuesday, so look at that. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the roles that people play within MISMO. Because what we are is by the industry and for the industry. And that's a really important point to drive home. So we have a couple of different players within the organization, starting with the staff members. Like Amy went over earlier, we have 6 full-time staff members. We went over who they are, but there's basically 2 primary teams that make up that staff. We have the product team and then the strategic growth and engagement team. I'm on the product team, so I focus on the work groups and the standards and driving the value and development of those. And then the strategic growth and engagement team focuses on growing our organization, bringing in new members, bringing in new participants to the work groups. So we're really here to facilitate the process and keep the organization on the railroad. We also have contracted facilitators, of which there are 7. Each of the work groups of those 35 groups that Amy talked about in the previous slide have a contracted facilitator assigned to them. That facilitator is responsible for running the group, taking the minutes, setting up the agenda, and really doing whatever needs to be done to help make the volunteers the subject matter experts instead of the administrators in the group. So they really lift a lot of the burden of the administration of what those groups do. We also have contracted architects. So those architects are assigned to groups where architectural expertise is needed to help develop data sets and different standards like those. Then, the most important piece of this all are the contributors from across the industry. We have over 700 different individuals that participate in MISMO across the industry. These are the people that really bring the ideas to MISMO and work on what we do. Now, the other half of this is the leadership. MISMO has a board of directors that has over 20 different members on it. There is representation from all across the industry. The biggest representation of that is lenders. And our direction as staff and as the contracted facilitators comes from the top down. So we really listen to the direction of our board to set our priorities and set our processes in place. We also have elected officials on approval bodies that are made up of industry members. So those members actually sit on the approval bodies that approve the work that we are going to work on and then publish. We also have leadership opportunities within the work groups. So those 35 different work groups, they all have a chair, and the chair's responsibilities are basically to run the meeting and set the agendas each week. There's also technical representation, so representatives that make sure that technically what we are doing, it is accurate and architecturally sound. And then we have education representatives who are responsible for developing educational content just like this. On the next slide, we're going to talk about the industry participants and the staff's roles and responsibilities. So I touched on this a little bit, but really what's important to understand is that the industry brings the work to MISMO. We provide a platform and a space for you all to collaborate and identify pain points, but we really need you to say, well, we as a domain, let's use servicing as an example. So us servicers are really having a problem with transfers. If you're in servicing, you know that this has been an issue for a long time. And we really need to come to MISMO to standardize and have common practices in this area. So the work is brought to MISMO by the participants. I mentioned the approval bodies that are actually sat on by those same participants. So while you're bringing the work, you're also approving what we work on. Then those work groups are, of course, made up of the industry. So the industry actually does the work to complete it. Now, what does staff do? We facilitate that process. We do everything to support bringing people to the table because we need all of the key stakeholders that we can get in those processes involved in the work groups. We also facilitate other things like events that I'll get into later in education. We also publicize the work. So once standards are finished, we do everything that we can, mostly through Amy and her team, to publish and show the work of what we've done to the industry. We have different vehicles with which we do that, but we really have a key role here in letting everybody know what you all have made. On the next slide, we're going to talk about how MISMO is more than just standards. So standards are, of course, the critical component to what we do, but we're more than just that. We don't exist just to roll up your sleeves and work on a data set or work on a project. We provide a space to collaborate on problems and identify pain points. Because before you know what you're actually going to work on, you need to have a space to identify what the common issues are. Some of those areas where we do that are our forums. So we have a forum for government members or GSEs. We have a forum for lenders. We have a forum for senior advisors in the industry. So we bring those groups together to understand what their problems are and what we should be working on. We also have communities of practice. I'm going to go into this a little bit later, but there are communities of practice that represent the domains. So like originations, servicing, and those are primarily used as idea generation areas. So where we bring people together within those domains to talk about what the issues are. We also have tools and services. One of our best ones and our most mature tools is our business glossary. This is a comprehensive glossary of terms relevant to the mortgage industry. There are over 8,000 terms in that glossary. We also have certifications. These certifications include product certifications. We have professional certifications, our AMSP and CMSP programs that Amy mentioned earlier. And then we have professional consultant certifications. So we certify consultants who can help your organizations implement and work with the MISMO standards. We also have events. So 3 times per year, MISMO hosts a summit. This, these summits aren't exactly like your typical conference. We have one day that's more so along the lines of an MBA event or other conferences that you may go to, where we have general sessions. All day in a big room on a stage, we have panels and sessions that really inform the industry. The other 3 days of those summits are all work group meetings and workshops. So those 35 work groups who meet on Zoom throughout the year and do lots of great work get to come together 3 times per year and roll up their sleeves for 3 hours to talk about really making progress on their efforts. We also host workshops that are outside of the general standards development process. In addition to that, we have a boot camp. If you like what you hear on this webinar and you want to learn more, we do have boot camps that really help provide more information on who we are, what we do, and really a deeper dive into the reference model and the technical side of things. So on the next slide, we are going to talk about our webinar next week. This webinar is the 5 key initiatives impacting lenders today. So I know a lot of you said that you're interested in learning more about MISMO's key initiatives. I'm going to give you a brief overview right now, but next week we are going to do a deeper dive on a lot of these key initiatives. The areas that we're going to be focusing on are artificial intelligence, compliance, secondary, valuations, and title and closing. Within that, we have specific products that MISMO is working on that we're going to go over. In the artificial intelligence space, I'm going to talk a little bit about what they're doing. So they are developing a framework for responsible use of AI. There are lots of frameworks that exist, and most people in the industry are looking for some kind of guidance and framework to actually help them understand where they should use AI, what guardrails they should have in place, and other important considerations. There are other frameworks that exist from organizations like NIST, but there aren't any that are specific to the mortgage industry. So what that group is working on right now is developing a framework for that purpose. Then we have our mortgage compliance data set group. This group developed a data set that was recently published that standardizes the state examination process. This allows for digitization and commonality amongst state exams. And if you're a lender right now, this is the most important thing that you should get your compliance professionals involved in. Because what this has the potential to do is extreme cost savings for lenders. If you're a lender that does business in all 50 states or many, many states, you'll understand that the state examination process is different for every single state. What this effort does is it takes all of the different requirements from those states and puts them into a common standardized data set. What ultimately the hope is that this will do is it will allow for regulators to leverage each other's exams so that if you're doing business in 50 states, you don't need to do 50 exams. You can do less exams than that. So really, I think that this is an extremely key initiative. And if you're a lender, you need to be taking a look at it. And we'll be talking more about it next week. Then we have our commitment file. So our secondary community of practice is working on standardizing a commitment file. Commitment files, if you aren't aware, are used by originators to send key bid information to investors that they're selling loans to. The file format that this bid information is sent to is currently unstandardized. So basically, anytime that an investor wants to ask for a commitment file, the originator has to generate it in a unique proprietary format. This uses a lot of resources on their end and takes up a lot of time. So this effort works to standardize what that commitment file actually looks like. AVMs. So if you're using automated valuation models, this group is looking to standardize 2 primary things. First of all, the confidence scores. So AVMs have a scoring system that say how confident they are that the price is within a certain degree of accuracy. This group developed a standardized score for that methodology. Also, accuracy testing. So once the valuations are actually generated, lenders have to go back and test the accuracy of them. This group developed a standardized framework and guidance for that testing. Then we have our title and closing suite of products. So title and closing is known, the chair of this group actually had a really good quote. He called it the last frontier. A lot of the way that this information is exchanged for title and closed orders is through either bespoke integrations, emails, or even faxes, believe it or not. So this is really one of the last areas that hasn't taken a really deep dive into digitization and standardization. That group is looking to standardize and digitize those processes. Again, we're going to go into more detail about this next week. The link will be in the PowerPoint here that we're going to send out to everybody. I know I didn't mention servicing here, but actually next Tuesday at the MBA Servicing Conference, I am going to be moderating a panel with lots of experts in the servicing space. And if you are going to be at that conference, it would be amazing if you could attend it. It's on Wednesday from 3:45 to 4:45. Okay, next slide. We're running a little bit short on time here. So this is our residential work group alignment chart because we made this to basically give anybody that's new to MISMO a way to look at what we do and put it into what is a typical mortgage life cycle. So align the groups that we have with domains that you would regularly participate in. So as you can see up across the top, we have originate loans, closing and funding, third-party services, selling or secondary, and service loans. So we put each of those 35 work groups within one of those buckets. Then across the bottom of there are some groups that touch every part of the mortgage life cycle. So a good example of that would be artificial intelligence. It doesn't necessarily fall into originations or just close and funding loans. It goes across all of the different areas. So this chart is a really easy way to see, okay, where should I actually be participating? What is MISMO doing? And even maybe more importantly, what is MISMO not doing that we should be? That's another really key point that we have here that I want to drive home is that there are things that we aren't doing, and this is the place to bring those issues. On the next slide, to talk about some ways to stay informed about MISMO. So we have a MISMO Matters monthly newsletter. This newsletter is absolutely fantastic. Amy and Kelly put it together every single month. The sign up information is linked on this PowerPoint, and it gives you updates monthly on the work groups, our initiatives, members, events, and so much more. I really could not recommend signing up for this more. It's the best way to stay engaged and involved with what we do. We also have a LinkedIn page, very similar. We post a lot of our updates, and there's great engagement on there on the things that MISMO is involved in. We have a YouTube channel. That channel has all of our webinar recordings posted. We just made that change. We used to keep the webinars behind a membership wall. We are going to begin posting all of our webinars on that YouTube page. Then we have our MISMO Mic'd Up podcast, which is hosted by MISMO's president, Brian View. This podcast, Brian brings on MISMO members to talk about a variety of topics, including why they participate in MISMO and what they're working on. Another good way to stay up to date and learn what we're doing. Next, we have our upcoming events. So the next summit that we have is our spring summit, which is taking place in Louisville, Kentucky, from June 4th to the 1st to the 4th. We have virtual options if you'd like to attend that way too. I talked about this a little bit. It's really, I think you don't really understand MISMO until you've attended a summit. It's such a great way to get involved and meet the people. I like to say it's like a family here. I've been here for 6 years. You get to know people by name. You learn about their families. You learn everything about them. It's really just a fantastic event. At that summit, we are hosting a workshop. This workshop is focused on pre-application data standards. This is an area that MISMO does not have a ton of maturity in, and really that the industry is lacking any sort of standardization around. A lot of these personal finance apps, like Rocket Money or some NerdWallet or these other ones, collect information that's eventually collected again at the loan application, but there's no way to exchange that information between the two parties. So we're going to talk about bringing all of those different stakeholders together to standardize a format in which we could take the pre-application information and translate it over to the application. So that registration for that workshop is included in your summit registration. If you're interested in that, you can register. And then we have a boot camp. That boot camp is another great step to get involved. You learn more about MISMO, what MISMO does, our business processes and tools. And then we also go into detail on the technical and XML specifications. So if you're more on the technical side and you're looking for a deep dive into the reference model and what we do, that boot camp is the place to do it. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Amy.
Thanks, Perry. We appreciate all of you being here. We know that was a lot of information in a really short period of time. So know that we are here for one-on-one conversations. If you want to get a team together to talk with us as well, please do that. My email address is on there, and happy to set up a meeting with Kelly and myself to talk about how you can get engaged. If you have specific questions about those key initiatives Perry talked about, please reach out to Perry as well. And we hope to see you.
Are we losing Amy?
I think we lost Amy a little bit. Um, I can finish it out. Well, thank you so much all for attending. Reach out to either of us about anything that you may have questions about. If you have any questions about the initiatives we have working on, or you have an idea that you want to bring to MISMO, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk it through with you. That is something that I love doing. So, any questions at all, feel free to reach out.
Excellent presentation, Amy and Perry. Thank you guys so much. I have launched our last poll. If you guys have a minute to spare, we'd love to get your feedback. Again, this helps us improve all of our future webinars. So thanks for being here, and you know how to reach us. Once you're done with that, you are free to go. Thank you guys so much.